There's a moment every man remembers, that quiet second when the woman in front of him stops seeing him as a man and starts testing his limits. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's a look, a dismissive tone, a subtle act that says, "You'll still be here no matter what I do." That's the moment your worth is being measured, not by what you say, but by what you allow. Because when she disrespects you, she's not just crossing a line, she's betting on your silence being weakness. She believes you'll still pick up the phone, still chase, still explain, still orbit her world like gravity itself depends on her attention. And that belief is the reason she feels safe doing it. But here's the truth the Stoics understood centuries ago. You cannot control how others treat you. You can only control how you respond. Epictetus said it best. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When someone crosses the line, the weak man reacts with noise. He argues. He lectures. He demands an apology that will never mean anything, because he's still trying to prove he's worth respecting. The Stoic man does the opposite. He doesn't explain. He doesn't plead. He doesn't chase validation from the person who just showed him he no longer has it. He withdraws. Calmly, completely, without permission. His silence isn't weakness, it's strategy, because silence makes people face the weight of their own behavior. And in that space, in that quiet distance, regret starts to grow. Understand this. Disrespect thrives where boundaries are weak. The moment you stop teaching people how to treat you, they start teaching you how little they value you. And every time you let it slide, every time you stay when you should have walked away, you train them to believe you'll always come back. But there's another way, a colder, calmer path that only disciplined men can walk. It's the path of control, of walking away not in anger, but in mastery. Because the man who can leave in silence holds every ounce of power. The truth is, respect doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being unshakable. From knowing your value so deeply that no one else's behavior can lower it. So from this moment forward, stop reacting to disrespect. Start observing it, like a Stoic watching a storm pass, and then move with quiet precision, like a man whose peace is non-negotiable. Because the world doesn't listen to words anymore. It listens to absence. It listens to composure. It listens to the man who can disappear without saying a single thing, and yet leaves the loudest silence behind. And that's what this message is about. Today, I'll show you 5 silent moves, actions that require no begging, no shouting, no proving. Yet they make anyone who ever disrespected you feel the full weight of losing you. 5 principles of discipline, distance, and dignity, forged in Stoic wisdom and sharpened by experience. By the end, you won't just understand them, you'll live them. And when you do, you won't chase respect. You'll command it. If you find strength in silence, if you're done explaining, done chasing, done lowering your standards, then you belong here. Welcome to True Stoic Way. Subscribe, and let's rebuild your frame. Move number 1. Cut off access without warning. When someone crosses your line, you don't educate them. You don't deliver a speech about boundaries, respect, or how much they hurt you. You vanish. Because the moment someone disrespects you, they've already made a decision about your worth. And every word you say after that becomes a negotiation, a desperate attempt to make them value what they've already discarded. Understand this. Most women don't fear losing your words. They fear losing access, the power to reach you whenever they want. The privilege of being seen, heard, and felt by you, even after they've crossed the line. That's what keeps them calm when they disrespect you. They believe no matter what happens, you'll still be there tomorrow. You'll still reply. You'll still show up. You'll still orbit their world like nothing happened. And that's where most men fail. They announce their departure. They write long messages full of emotion and logic, explaining why they're walking away. They say things like, "I deserve better," or "I'm done being treated this way." But here's the truth. Every time you explain, you lose power. Because when you explain your exit, you're still asking for understanding. And a man who asks to be understood by someone who already disrespected him is still seeking permission. Disrespect ends where silence begins, not where you shout louder, not where you threaten to leave. It ends where you disappear, without noise, without notice, without permission. You don't block her to make a statement. You block her because access to you is a privilege, and she lost it. You don't watch her stories to stay aware. You stop because her world is no longer your concern. You don't half-cut, leaving one open door just in case. You close them all, not to hurt her, but to free yourself. And yes, she'll notice. At first, she'll be confused. She'll scroll back through your last messages, your last calls, your last interactions, trying to pinpoint where it shifted. Because your absence creates a silence louder than any speech. That silence starts to haunt her. She'll tell herself you're just playing a game. But as the days turn into weeks, she realizes it's not a game. It's a new reality. And that's when regret begins. But let's be clear. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making her miss you. This is about realignment. You're not punishing her, you're correcting yourself. You're removing yourself from a space where your presence was being taken for granted. That's what true self-respect looks like. When you cut off access, you must do it both externally and internally. Externally, remove her number, delete the chats, mute her presence from your devices. Internally, stop replaying conversations in your mind. Stop crafting imaginary responses. Stop checking if she's noticed. Because the real battle isn't on your phone. It's in your head. And every time you revisit the past, you reopen a door you already locked. So, redirect that energy. Take that obsession, that constant urge to check your phone, and turn it into fuel. Train harder. Build your body until it reflects your discipline. Focus on your business until it speaks louder than any apology she could offer. Learn new skills, meet new people, and occupy every second of your time with forward motion. The Stoics called this conversion of emotion into action. They believed pain becomes power when you channel it into progress. That's the principle you live by now. Don't sit in your room overthinking. Don't post quotes about self-worth. Live it. Because when you fill your time with creation instead of reaction, you stop being a man chasing closure and become a man who creates his own peace. The man who cuts off access without warning once learns he never has to explain himself again. Because silence, when mastered, becomes language. A language only the disciplined understand. And when she realizes your absence isn't a tactic, but a transformation, that's when the regret sinks in. It's not your silence that punishes her. It's your evolution. Because nothing terrifies someone who disrespected you more than realizing they'll never have access to the man you're becoming. So when you walk away, do it with purpose. Don't announce it. Don't explain it. Don't look back. Cut off access. Completely. Calmly. Irreversibly. Then focus on becoming untouchable. Because when your life starts moving in silence, every person who took you for granted will feel the echo of your absence, louder than your presence ever was. Stay focused. Stay silent. This is the true Stoic way. Move number 2, level up quietly. When you walk away, don't look back. Don't explain, don't prove, don't post, just vanish and rebuild. Because silence isn't escape. It's a strategy. It's the art of removing noise so your growth can happen without interference. Most men think that disappearing means weakness, like you're avoiding confrontation. But in reality, disappearance is power, because when you're not seen, you can't be judged. You can't be interrupted. You can't be manipulated. That's when transformation begins. You see, the weak man wants the world to know he's improving. He posts his workouts, his quotes, his new mindset. He documents every step of his comeback, hoping she's watching. But every time he does that, he gives away his leverage, because proving progress is still a form of attachment, and attachment is the enemy of freedom. A Stoic doesn't announce his discipline, he lives it. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't talk about what a good man should be one." And in the same way, don't talk about your comeback, become it. Silence is camouflage. It hides your moves, guards your focus, and confuses the people who once thought they knew you. They'll wonder what you're doing, where you've gone, why you've stopped showing up. They'll scroll through your pages looking for clues, searching for proof that you're still the same man. But there's nothing to find, because the version of you they remember no longer exists. Imagine this. You vanish for 6 months. No updates, no explanations. You train harder than ever. You build new habits, new income, new identity. And when you finally show up again, not on purpose, not for her, but simply because you've evolved, the difference is undeniable. Your body speaks of discipline, your eyes carry calm, your presence feels heavier, and she can't process it, because the man she disrespected doesn't exist anymore. That's the beauty of leveling up in silence. It turns curiosity into confusion, and confusion into regret. She starts replaying her own decisions, trying to figure out where she lost access, not just to you, but to the man you've become. But remember, your growth isn't about her. It's about you, because when you grow in private, you remove the need for applause. And when you remove the need for applause, you enter a level of power most men will never reach. In psychology, there's a law called the scarcity principle. People value what they can't easily access. When you stop showing up, stop posting, stop proving, your absence creates value. It triggers curiosity, mystery, even obsession. Not because you planned it, but because you learned to control your energy instead of leaking it. That's what true Stoic evolution looks like. Discipline without announcement, progress without validation, power without display. So make this your code. Don't talk about what you're building. Don't explain your silence. Let the results speak when it's time, because silence is the soil where greatness grows. Every man who's ever rebuilt himself knows this. At first, silence feels lonely. You'll miss the noise, the attention, the validation. But stay patient, because over time, the silence that once felt empty becomes the loudest proof of your evolution. You'll walk differently, talk differently, think differently, and people will feel the difference before they can describe it. That's when you realize you don't need to announce anything. Your life has become the announcement. Your discipline has become the evidence. Your peace has become the flex. So let them wonder, let them guess, let them think you disappeared. You didn't. You simply outgrew the noise that couldn't handle your silence. If this message hits home, if you're ready to rebuild in peace, evolve without validation, and rise without noise, then you already understand the path. Subscribe to True Stoic Way, the place for men who rebuild in silence. Move number 3. Stop explaining yourself. Every man's first instinct after being misunderstood is to explain, to justify, to defend, because we all crave the same thing, to be understood. But that craving is exactly what keeps you weak, because the moment you start explaining, you're no longer leading your life and you're negotiating it. When you explain yourself to someone who's already disrespected you, you hand them control. You invite them to sit in judgment of your choices. You give them power to approve or reject your path. And that's not strength. That's submission dressed as clarity. You've seen it before. A man sets a boundary, and when she challenges it, he starts to explain. I only said that because I was hurt. I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted you to understand me. And with every word, he chips away at his own authority. Because every "I just wanted you to understand" really means "I just wanted your approval." Here's the hard truth. People who respect you don't need explanations. And people who disrespect you won't believe them anyway. That's why a Stoic never wastes breath on persuasion. He doesn't defend his choices. He embodies them. He lives them until they become undeniable. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's the code you live by now. No more speeches, no more essays about why you changed, just action. Quiet, consistent, unstoppable action. Because the man who constantly needs to explain himself is secretly asking for permission to be who he is. And that's the surest way to lose respect. From others, and from yourself. When you cut someone off, when you shift your priorities, when you start moving differently, expect questions. She'll ask, "Why did you stop calling? Why are you so distant? Why are you acting different? Don't write a paragraph. Don't send a speech. You say one line. I've been focused on my path. That's it. No emotion, no justification, no defense, just clarity. Because the man who knows his direction doesn't need a map from the wrong person. And when you answer that way, you're not being rude, you're being resolute. You're showing that your peace is your priority, not their perception. In psychology, this is called detachment from external validation. It's what separates those who lead from those who chase approval. When your self-worth no longer depends on being understood, you become untouchable. And ironically, that's when people start respecting you. Because they can sense you've stopped playing for their applause. They see that you move with conviction, not consensus. You act because it's right for you, not because it looks right to them. And that's magnetic, because certainty is rare. Most people are lost in doubt, looking for direction. When they meet someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't explain, doesn't seek permission, they can't help but take notice. That's what real power sounds like. Not volume, not debate, but calm certainty. So from now on, eliminate the phrase, "I did it because," from your vocabulary. You don't need to justify your discipline, your boundaries, your solitude. You don't need to convince anyone that your silence has purpose. You just live it, and let your consistency do the talking. Because the world doesn't believe in words anymore. It believes in results. It respects patterns, not promises. When your actions repeat long enough, no one needs your explanation. They already know who you are. And that's what Stoicism is about. Not theory, but embodiment. The Stoic doesn't say he's calm. He remains calm. He doesn't claim strength. He acts strong. He doesn't explain why he walked away. He stays gone. In a world addicted to justification, your silence becomes sacred. Your refusal to defend yourself becomes your shield, and your composure becomes your loudest statement. Remember this line. Engrave it in your mind. The man who needs no explanation becomes the man no one dares to question. You don't owe anyone a story. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself clarity. You owe yourself freedom from the need to be understood. Because once you stop explaining, you stop negotiating your worth. And from that silence, your true authority begins. Move number 4. Redirect energy to a better circle. When you walk away, the test doesn't end. It begins. Because cutting someone off is only half the battle. The real challenge comes after, when the silence hits, when the phone stops lighting up, when you feel the pull to look back. That's where most men fail. They leave, but they don't replace. They cut her off, but they leave a void. And nature hates a void. So what happens? They end up crawling back. Not because they love her, but because they can't handle the emptiness. Here's the truth. If you walk away without building something stronger to walk toward, you'll always end up where you started. Energy has to go somewhere. If you don't redirect it, it will consume you. The same energy you once gave to overthinking, arguing, or chasing, you must now invest into rebuilding. Not into her, but into yourself. This is where most men get it wrong. They think no contact is the victory. But no contact means nothing if your life remains stagnant, because your mind will crave stimulation. And when you have nothing new to feed it, it returns to the past for comfort. That's why your next move after walking away is critical. You don't sit still. You redirect. Redirect your energy to a better circle, because your environment is either building your frame or breaking it. Show me the men around you, and I'll show you your future. You can't rebuild your mindset while surrounded by people who still live in the habits you're trying to escape. You can't talk about self-control with people addicted to distraction. You can't talk about peace with people who thrive on chaos. You can't rise while your circle laughs at discipline. So audit your circle. Who do you talk to every day? Who do you spend weekends with? Who do you share your ideas with? If those names don't challenge you, you're in the wrong room. Build a circle where respect is the baseline, not something you have to earn through effort. A circle where growth isn't optional, it's expected. Where men sharpen men. Where mediocrity dies in silence. That's what Stoicism teaches. Your external environment reflects your internal one. Change your surroundings and your thinking will follow. The Stoics called this oikiosis, aligning yourself with what is natural, what is ordered, what strengthens your character. That means creating a life where your standards are mirrored by the people around you. Not the kind of friends who comfort your weakness, but the kind who challenge it. Because if you don't build that, you'll fall back into emotional gravity. You'll start checking your phone again. You'll wonder if she's thinking about you. You'll open that old chat just to see. And that's how you lose progress, not through heartbreak, but through boredom. Boredom is the graveyard of men who almost changed. So when the silence starts to feel heavy, fill it with purpose. Don't let your energy rot. Redirect it into the gym, into business, into learning, into people who actually add strength to your foundation, because your life will always mirror where your energy goes. If you feed drama, you live in drama. If you feed discipline, you live in peace. And here's the part no one tells you. When you start surrounding yourself with better men, something inside you shifts. You stop needing validation from the wrong people. You stop chasing women who don't respect you. You stop explaining your standards, because everyone around you lives by the same ones. That's the power of a better circle. It's not just social, it's spiritual. It reprograms your mind. It redefines your identity. Because when you upgrade your environment, you upgrade the expectations of yourself. A weak circle feeds your excuses. A strong circle destroys them. And when that shift happens, when your new life starts to take shape, the past loses its grip. You stop checking on her, not because you're forcing yourself to forget, but because you've outgrown the part of you that cared. Your circle becomes your armor. Your habits become your home. And suddenly, her absence feels like nothing compared to the world you're building. You don't need revenge when your new circle makes her world look small. You don't need closure when your growth speaks louder than her opinion. Because by then, you've already won. Not over her, but over your old self. If you're building your circle of discipline, you're already part of true Stoic way. Because the man who surrounds himself with strength never falls back into weakness. Move number 5. Show zero emotional recoil. When someone disrespects you, they're not testing your strength. They're testing your control. Because power isn't measured by how loud you get. It's measured by how calm you remain when someone tries to shake you. A woman who disrespects you doesn't gain power from her words. She gains it from your reaction. Every sigh, every raised tone, every emotional spike tells her she still controls the strings, that you're still dancing to her rhythm. But the man who shows zero emotional recoil breaks the pattern instantly, because when the attack meets silence, the weapon disappears. She calls you names, mocks your calm, provokes your pride, waiting for a spark. You don't give it. Your face doesn't shift. Your breathing stays steady. You're there, but untouchable. And in that moment, she feels something she didn't expect. Powerlessness. See, the psychology behind emotional manipulation is simple. It's about control. People throw emotional bait to see if they can pull you into their storm. Because the moment you react, they win. They've proven they can dictate your emotions. That's why mastering your emotional response isn't about ego. It's about freedom. Inside your brain, there's a small structure called the amygdala. It's the part responsible for emotional reactions: anger, fear, rage, anxiety. When it gets triggered, it hijacks logic. It pushes you to speak, move, or fight before you think. The Stoics understood this centuries before neuroscience did. They taught that between stimulus and response there is a moment, a pause. And inside that pause lies your power. Because the man who controls that pause controls himself. When she insults you, that's the stimulus. When you pause, breathe, and choose silence, that's the response. And that's what separates a king from a boy. Her words hit you like waves, but you are the rock, unmoved, unchanged. The wave crashes, foams, disappears, and the rock remains. That's Stoicism. Not pretending to be emotionless, but mastering the distance between emotion and reaction. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Don't rush to correct the disrespect. Don't rush to prove your worth. Don't rush to win the argument. Because the man who rushes is reacting, not responding. Instead, slow your breath. Feel the fire rise, but don't let it spill. Because that's the difference between being controlled and being composed. Seneca once wrote, "Anger, an acid that does more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." When you react with anger, you burn yourself to prove a point. But when you stay still, you force the other person to drown in their own noise. Understand this. Stillness is not indifference. It's dominance. Because the person who can't be provoked can't be controlled. You might think silence makes you look weak, but that's only because weak people confuse reaction with power. Real power moves quietly. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't need to explain. It just is. And once you master that, the entire game changes. She can't guilt you. She can't shame you. She can't trigger you. Because you no longer dance to her emotions. She dances around your calm. And soon she realizes the truth. The game only works if you play. And when you stop reacting, the game ends. That's when regret begins to grow. Silently, like a shadow behind her pride. Because she sees now what you've become. A man who isn't cold, but centered. Not bitter, but free. And nothing is more haunting than a man who cannot be shaken. The beauty of zero emotional recoil is that it transcends relationships. It changes how you handle everything: business, family, conflict, life. Because once you've mastered composure in the fire, nothing outside of you can burn you again. So hold your calm like armor. Guard your emotions like treasure. And remember, silence isn't retreat. It's rain. You don't flinch. You don't fold. You don't feed the drama. You breathe. You pause. You stay still. And in that stillness, your power compounds. Because people can only fight chaos with chaos, but no one knows what to do with peace. When she realizes she can't trigger you anymore, the game ends. And in that ending, your victory is complete. No words, no reaction, just quiet, unshakable strength. Every silent move you've learned here is a test of self-respect, a test of discipline, a test of silence, and above all, a test of control. Because any man can talk about power, but only a few can stay composed when everything in them wants to react. Only a few can hold the line when emotion tempts them to break it. And that's what separates ordinary men from Stoic men. When you live by these 5 moves, you stop fighting for respect. You start embodying it. You stop teaching lessons with words. You teach through absence. You stop demanding loyalty. You command it through presence. The weak man argues, explains, and negotiates his value. The Stoic man simply walks away and lets silence do the talking. Because silence never lies. It exposes the truth. It reveals who was real and who only stayed because access was easy. You no longer need to teach anyone how to treat you. They'll learn on their own, the moment they lose the privilege of having you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." That's what every move here has been about. Becoming the man who doesn't chase respect, because he is respect. The man whose boundaries speak louder than his anger. Whose peace can't be stolen because it no longer depends on others. The truth is simple. You can't control people. You can't control loyalty. You can't control love. But you can control how you show up, and when you choose to leave. And once you master that, no one can touch you. Not their words, not their games, not their silence. Because your peace is not for sale. Your dignity is not negotiable. Your presence is not owed. It's earned. Remember this line, and carry it with you. The best revenge is no revenge, just silence and distance. That's the mark of a Stoic man, the kind of man who doesn't burn bridges. He simply removes his presence and lets time show the difference. Because time always reveals what silence protects. So, if you're standing at that crossroads, tired of explaining yourself, tired of chasing validation, tired of breaking your own peace just to keep someone else comfortable, then this is your moment. Draw the line, rebuild your frame, live the discipline, and never hand your power away again. The world doesn't need louder men, it needs calmer ones, men who walk with quiet conviction, men who don't react, they respond, men who don't seek control, they embody it. That's the return of the Stoic man, the one who commands respect without asking for it, the one who builds peace so solid, chaos breaks against it, the one who moves in silence, but whose silence shakes the room. If you're done explaining, done chasing, done giving pieces of yourself away just to be seen, then this message is for you. Join the movement. Subscribe to True Stoic Way and start walking the quiet path to power. Because power isn't in noise. It's in knowing you never needed noise to begin with.